Today's guest is Steve Murray from RTC Consulting. Obviously, he's been a guest on the podcast before and one of my most popular guests. We're talking today all about referral fees, private listings, Zillow lawsuits, Compass lawsuits, and how brokers can prepare for 2026 and keep their companies running smoothly, and we also talk about the housing market and what's going on in it. So enjoy the podcast. And a special thanks to HomeBot for sponsoring the Real Trending podcast. Steve, you're one of my most popular guests.
Hopefully it'll keep being that way.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. We have a lot to talk about. I want to go over a lot of things happening in the industry right now and how brokers should be preparing for 2026. And we'll just start with, the Compass Anywhere. We talked a little bit about it on another podcast, but time has passed, and I think we've probably kind of clarified where there may be any issues with it, or how brokers should be thinking about it. So talk to me about possible what could derail it. What are some expectations from it?
Well, so I think this was announced back around September 20th when they announced the transaction. We know they've discontinued all other acquisition activities right now for all kinds of good reasons. We've talked before, I think. Most of what I keep reading is the industry going, well, they're going to use, their market share to expand the private exclusives and, force everyone else to do the same thing. And that's, that Compass wants to have its own private MLS system. And I hear all that, but, and there could be some areas there that are intriguing to Compass on this. But the truth is, from my viewpoint, I look at the cash flows of the two companies. I look at the ability to get some synergies in the costs, which others have opined on. And I look at the potential for a better housing sales market in the next 3 years. I put all those things together and I come up with a company that will get to, or could get to, $900 million to $1 billion in free cash flow, which would more than double the value of the equity of Compass. More than double at current multiples. So, part of Compass's challenge is that there weren't that many big acquisitions left to make that would actually move the needle. There's only roughly 3 other brokerage companies in the country that have more than 300 or 400 million in gross commission revenues. And there's another half a dozen that are between 100 million and 200 million. They're not all for sale. Some of those will never be for sale. So I really think this was very strategic by Compass, but I think we'll reserve comment on the private exclusive listing for the moment. I think it's a financial play.
Yeah,
and I think it's the way to get a company that's bigger and stronger and produces more free cash flow, which they can choose to invest in different ways to improve the overall value of the company.
And what do you think some possible landmines are from, obviously we talked about, I think we said 14 to 15% market share for both companies, in general, but in different markets, they obviously will have a lot more than that. And I think that concerns brokers around the country. Do you think there will be a significant reduction of some of those offices based on just antitrust issues?
Well, and this is just my uninformed view. I have testified in some antitrust cases. I've been part of transactions where we had to do what's called a Hart-Scott-Rodino filing with the Federal Trade Commission and sometimes the Department of Justice. people need to understand that, I mean, bottom line is the first thing that the FTC is concerned about is there any potential harm to consumers?
Right.
And the second thing that they might be concerned about would be harm to competition.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're going to have, and I'm rounding this, 13 to 14% national market share of transactions, maybe 20 plus or minus 20% in volume with these two deals. But yes, in some metropolitan areas, my instinct is that the combination of Compass and Anywhere just owned and operated.
Mm-hmm.
Coldwell Banker, Corcoran, Compass owned operations. There are some markets where the combined owned and operated businesses could have north of 40 to 50% in volume, at least market share.
Right.
I don't think that goes over well with the regulators when somebody's acquiring their way to something above 40 or 50% market share. So that's one concern. And there's probably 3 or 4 markets where that's the case,
Yeah.
where they may, the federal regulators may say, well, we think you're going to have to sell one of those brokerage companies,
Mm-hmm.
which creates another issue because, well, who are the buyers
Yeah.
for something that big in today's
Mm-hmm.
market? That's kind of an interesting question. The other thing, and I have no idea other than just my, business experience, are they going to look favorably on one company owning both Sotheby's and Christie's?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't sit in the federal regulators' chairs. I just don't know. So, but
Yeah.
those are areas of concern for getting the deal done. Now, you know, you can make a good case to the regulators that just because all those agents are associated with these companies now doesn't mean they'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
This isn't selling a manufacturing plant with equipment, which
Mm-hmm.
stays there after you buy it or sell it. I mean, the agents. I mean, if a purchaser says going to purchase one of their large brokerage companies in one of those big markets, well, you know, assuming they can't keep it the same brand name, which wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Well, why would agents want to stay there? They signed up with a particular brokerage for a particular
Mm-hmm.
reason, and then that brokerage says, "Sorry, you can't stay here," and sells them. That's a problem. So,
Yeah.
but you know what? I'm sure that Compass and Anywhere are employing the best antitrust counsel and experts at dealing with the Hart-Scott-Rodino reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're already in conversation with them and trying to figure out how to get this thing through the eye of the needle, so to speak.
Right. And what do you think? I mean, everybody has an opinion of Robert Refkin. What do you think they get wrong about him as a business person?
Look, he's a real passionate entrepreneur. He obviously is not afraid to buck the status quo at all. The one thing I've noted, I've actually expressed it publicly, both to him privately and elsewhere. I mean, he's a very smart guy. I don't know, 3, 4 years ago, up until that time, Compass was seen as a rapacious
Mm-hmm.
um, corporate entity buying agents and teams and brokerage companies and spending, all this money on technology. And it was all we're going to be a real estate leading tech firm.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere back there about 3, 4 years ago, he shifted the focus and the communication that he was using to be more about the people of the company.
Yeah.
Talked much more about relationships, spent a lot of his time out in the field meeting agents and teams and managers and his sales team. And in a lot of his public communications, he shifted gears and started talking a lot more about the importance of Compass being a very strong relationship based company.
Right.
So kudos to Robert for figuring out that the long-term health of his company would not be necessarily about technology as it would
Mhm.
be about people feel that being at Compass is special,
Yeah.
and that they not only provide great tech and marketing and so on and so forth, but that they care about the people being there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to zoom out and talk about just overall brokerage M&A right now. Um, what's changed and what's happening right now?
So over the last 3.5 years, either due to a downturn in the market and the performance of owned brokerage companies, and then the Compass Anywhere deal. I mean, with only one exception, most of the large national buyers are now out of the market.
Hmm.
I mean, Berkshire Hathaway is out, Anywhere's out, Compass is out, Peerage is out, United is out. I mean, so other than the Hanna family, who are still very active and aggressive, and they mainly are east of the Mississippi and
Hmm.
generally north of the Mason-Dixon line, so to speak. Um, the other deals we're working on are mainly local deals
Okay.
between two local brokers or two regional brokers, but activity is way down. I mean,
Yeah.
there'll be some deals get done. We're working on a few, but the activity level's way down.
And do you think that is also a symptom of, we had an aging brokerage population and a lot of them have sold or gotten out of the business, or is that not true?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the um, you know, it's like I said earlier. For even Compass, how many large brokers are there left to buy? There's not that many.
Yeah.
It's less than a dozen
Hmm.
that would be considered large. And that's not even talking about whether they're all available or not. Um, and it could be that at least at this point, foreseeable future, we could be at the tail end of a almost 30-year period of time, starting back in 1997, when both today's home services and today's Anywhere started very aggressively buying other brokerage companies. The Hanna entered about the same time.
Hmm.
Um, and, those guys kind of drove the marketplace, and they've done between them hundreds of transactions. So the number of medium to large brokerages left that for the national guys that they would be interested in is just not there. So
Yeah.
this really now evolves to back to where it was before any of those people entered the scene. Almost all the transactions were buying between local and regional brokers.
What do you see as maybe the next wave of real estate? Not necessarily M&A, but like business models and there's always a new kid on the block, right? So what do you see changing? What do you see as maybe that next wave? Even if
Well,
it's not out
we
yet.
have a lot of cross currents right now. I mean, other information, pardon
Mhm.
me, absent other information, we might say that lead gen teams and brokerages would be the ones that we're going to watch most carefully have these growth opportunities.
Yeah.
And that still could be the case, but now we have this underlying issue of referral fees.
Mhm.
And how much disclosure do we have to make to consumers that someone's earning a referral fee? And if that becomes widespread or the regulators get involved, how might that impact all kinds of lead gen type brokerage models? We don't know. I think it's going to change. I mean, I personally can't predict how will consumers react when I say, "Hey, Bob, I'm referring you to a brokerage of mine, and Scottsdale from Colorado. And by the way, I'm disclosing that I'm getting a third of the commission that he's earning for handling you.
Mm-hmm.
Will consumers go, well, that's fine? Or will consumers go, well, that's fine, but I think you should share part of that with me? We don't know. We don't know. If it becomes widespread or required that referral fees be disclosed, we don't know yet what the impact will be. So that's on
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, that plays into this uncertainty is, so NAR has now said, in terms of private market exclusives, that's a local MLS decision.
Mm-hmm.
As far as letting non-members use the MLS, that's a local MLS decision. So on the one hand, you go, and I've heard same thing you have, oh, that's just NAR getting out of the firing line, which could be the case. But a lot of people wanted them to do this, I think. And so now, if I want to implement a national private exclusive strategy, I basically now have to negotiate or have discussions or enter into agreements with hundreds of MLSs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. The
Yeah.
whole issue of non-members being access to MLS. How much of a decline will it cause in realtor membership numbers? Because the places where you don't have to be a member to get access to MLS, and people go, well, it's only 5% or 10% of the MLS users are non-realtors. In some places, there's other factors. Like in one or two states, the State Realtor Association is the only licensed provider of the forms.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to belong if you want access to those forms. We don't know. We don't know. We have brokers who are saying, I don't want to require all of my agents to be members of all three.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people still speculating that there are coming challenges to the three-way agreement. I don't actually know anything about that, but it could happen. So you talk about what's the future emerging business model. I don't actually know, Tracy, because I don't know what the environment's going to look like.
I know it is crazy. I know in
Because
Florida we've had non-members who are able to join just the MLS for years now, and it hasn't hurt membership. But I know that they charge about the same. I think, I'm not positive, but I think they charge about the same as membership into the association too. So
yeah, I mean, they're allowed to, if there's extra costs. Everything I've read says if there are actual extra costs serving and processing a non-realtor member, then you can charge for that. But that's kind of hard to prove, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, but we do know that lower cost brokerage models have had a very strong run for the last 5 to 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
But there's evidence that even for some of them, it's kind of leveling off.
Yeah.
How fast they're growing. And then you got a more traditional model like Compass has grown enormously.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess what we say is we don't know which model is going to prevail, except for, as you and I know, there's room for a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I want to go into the private listings and the Zillow lawsuits. I feel like everyone's ganging up on Zillow right now, from the class action to the Compass Zillow lawsuit to the the rental lawsuit. I mean, I guess that's the same, but what do you think when you look at the number and scope of those involving Zillow, what does it signal about where the power struggles in the industry really sit?
Well, I mean, and again, this is a fairly simplistic view that I have. Zillow gets almost all of its data from MLSs.
Mm-hmm.
And it says we're the biggest, most robust listing site in the universe, kind of. And all of a sudden you get a Compass says, well, we're going to have private exclusives and we'll put them on if they don't sell in the first 30 or 45 or 60 days, and then you'll get them. And Zillow sits there and goes, well, that's anti-consumer and it's wrong. And see, we got a couple other national networks that agree with us. Look, that was nothing but Zillow trying to preserve its position, right? So they say if you don't list it with an MLS per their policies right away, then you can't ever be on Zillow. I mean, that's Zillow protecting itself. They can talk about its consumer protection. We know consumers can protect themselves. We don't need Zillow to do that. If I want a private exclusive listing and I have my reasons for doing that, it shouldn't harm my future ability to put it on your site. But then again, if you're going to be that way about it, then fine. Zillow doesn't sell homes. People keep forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of Zillow hasn't caused any more homes to get sold any faster for better prices as long as they've been here. And, so I saw it purely protecting their own hegemony as a national listing site. Period.
Yeah. I mean, do you see any way that Zillow will change their business model based on the possible outcome, or their role in real estate changes in any way?
Well, I mean, if a court rules that they were using their power to restrain competition and they cannot bar somebody who didn't put it on the MLS right away from being on Zillow, I mean, Zillow's not immediately harmed.
Mm-hmm.
It's only if 3 or 4 or 5 other big brokers in a marketplace all decide to do the same thing, it reduces the viability of Zillow as the preferred source to go to
Mm-hmm.
for information about homes for sale. But actions by brokerage to do like I said, 3, 4, 5 of them get together and all have their own private markets. Well, it's not just Zillow that gets harmed. The MLS becomes less viable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'll leave it to consumers whether that's good or bad. I've always said that I thought having the MLS and having that kind of a robust marketplace with the best possible transparent information and good rules governing its use by the participants was the best for all participants.
Mm-hmm.
People disagree with that. They think, we ought to be able to market it through our own channels before we offer it out to the public. I personally would not do that myself. If a listing agent proposed to me that we're going to market it privately for 30 days, I said, tell me why that's in my interest.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, we'll let the marketplace sort that out. Because, Compass, assuming to get the deal with Anywhere done, they now have hundreds of thousands of agents in the U.S. I mean, will all of them decide that private exclusive listing is the proper channel to take for their listings? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be the guy trying to convince them all it's a good thing for everybody at all times.
Does this leave opportunities open for new business models? I mean, we've already got a couple of competitors to Zillow, obviously, but maybe something different that really is the next Zillow or the next iteration of it.
Well, Tracy, I think AI is just beginning
Mm-hmm.
to touch our industry. I mean, I used 2 AI, tested them this weekend, just playing around to look for homes for sale in a certain area where I live, and they pulled up a summary of all of them
Mm-hmm.
real quickly. I didn't have to go to Zillow. I didn't have to go to realtor.com or homes.com, and I didn't have to go to the local MLS. I didn't have to go to a broker site. I just went to ChatGPT or Gemini, which is Google's AI,
Hmm.
and it actually the truth is I then compared it to just doing the more generic and clicking on a Google link to Zillow. Gemini and Chat were better than Zillow.
Hmm. Interesting.
And I think, and plus, by the way, they brought in new homes that weren't on the MLS, and they brought in, I think it was at least one for sale by owner that wasn't on Zillow or MLS.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
how does that evolve? I don't know,
Yeah. So
but
for
I
brokers,
guarantee you it's going to have an impact on the way people find information about
mhm,
houses for sale and comps.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
it'll
for
change
brokers
that.
who are seeing, I want to go back to the referral fee. As a broker, what would you do right now to prepare your business for any scenario with referral fees? I mean, I know Benchmark and EXP have chosen to, um, you know, display that information. They have full transparency. I'm sure other brokers will follow suit, but what are some things brokers can be doing right now to prepare for 2026, whether it's competing with private listings or, preparing for the eventuality of referral fees and possible changes to that?
You know, I'm nothing but an old sock, like a broken record or whatever metaphor we want to use. If I owned a brokerage right now, other than being aware of what's going on, I would do nothing different than if I'm successful that I've been doing.
Hmm.
It's still a business of recruiting and developing talent and figuring out economically how to do that and support your talent and find a way to make a profit doing it. I've got to, I continue, brokers continue to have many of the traditional companies still have too much tied up in office space.
Hmm.
I think their management, um, this management structures of a lot of brokers, particularly of the incumbent traditional, whether they're independent or franchise makes no difference. They're still kind of stuck in old management models
Hmm.
where you have an office with a branch manager who does 8 different things and in far too many cases is mediocre at all of them. And I think that you have to look at ways you're going to actually perform the basic functions much more efficiently than you have in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to continue to run that model, you've got to shrink your space associated with each dollar of revenue. I mean, it's still for most, again, I mean, you look at companies like EXP, they don't have offices.
Right.
And people say, yeah, but look at their productivity per agent. True. Look at their gross margin. It's a lot less than traditional brokers. And that's all true. So one extreme or another, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't be doing, look, I probably want to model in how much how much revenue does my company get from outbound referrals?
Hmm.
Yeah, I would take a look at that. And myself, if I had a brokerage, I wouldn't wait for somebody to tell me I need to disclose. I would start
Hmm.
making it a company policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just do that. Just because that's coming.
Hmm.
Now, whether it happens because we all, as an industry, say that's a good thing and let's do that, or regulators or litigants force us to, and what the outcome of that will be, I don't know. But I certainly would start doing it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Any last thoughts on 2026 and for brokers?
Well, the one thing I'd comment on is we have all kinds of forecasts for next year's housing sales, existing home sales. There are some as low as a 4 or 5% increase in unit sales, and there's some at 14 to 15%. The
Hmm.
truth is probably right in the middle of that. Maybe. I mean, even though rates will likely trend down a little bit, they won't be drastic.
Hmm.
And number two, we still have a huge problem with the average or median home price compared to the average or median household income is still
Right.
the worst. It's the worst ratio in the 45 years I've been tracking it. That
Yeah.
is, home prices are now roughly 4.6 to 5 times the average household income, and mortgage rate's not going to fix that. Some of it, but it's not going to fix enough of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I think it will be a better year next year, and I think the really great operators, and we're already seeing evidence of it in some of the reports, valuation work we're doing. Brokers have done, the ones who are still doing well, they've done a good job keeping a lid on costs,
Hmm.
and they're still doing all the fundamentals well. And I think you get a 5 or 6 or 8% increase in units, and some of these brokers will have very, very successful years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, Steve, thank you again
Hope
for
it was
joining the
helpful.
Real Trending podcast. I appreciate you on.
Tracy, it's always good to see you.